Thank you very much. My name is Colin. I'm from the New Times. Mr. President, there's a debate that has been going on for quite a bit about what will happen after 2017. And one of the key issues here is that whilst, especially during your citizen outreach, there were residents who are asking you to stand, and yet the Constitution gives a maximum of 2 terms. But at the end of the day, one of the key things is the strength of the institutions that we have. How would you rate the capacity of our institutions to manage this transition come 2017? Thank you.
It's good you bring up this issue, which, as you rightly said, is a debate going around. But let me say also, if we were to be honest, and if my memory serves me well, because I read in the papers, newspapers, I hear on radios, I hear that and that. I think to say that I started the debate is half true. You actually started the debate. You members of the press and the media and many others. I have been asked these questions about term limits, about whether am I going, am I not going. Do you know how many years it is now that I've been asked these questions? I was asked these questions even before I finished my first term. You are aware of that. And even in the second term, I've been asked this and other questions about it all the time. So I'm not the one starting the debate. But I am now participating in the debate. That's what I have done. On the 8th of February, I invited leaders from my party at different levels, many of them. We call it expanded NEC, National Executive Committee. I think there are close to 2,000 people. And the intention of RPF, my intention as well, was to put this matter in some perspective, because it was unnecessarily creating diversion. It was also creating confusion when every day I have to be asked things. And in fact, as you also pointed out, it has been also affecting citizens. They hear questions. You've seen many times, it's like they hear on the radio, I'm being asked, are you going, aren't you going, when are you going, and so on and so forth. And it's like the ordinary citizen, when I am visiting the countryside, they ask me, said, we hear people asking you when you are going or whether you are going, where are you going? Yes, and it's like they are saying, those asking you or those telling you this and that, first of all, are the least concerned. We are the ones most concerned. This is, I can make that interpretation for them. If I don't know what interpretation you make about it. I'm just telling you my honest views about it. So, for how long do we go with this kind of confusion without putting it in some perspective and in a way of managing it? Well, I read papers every other day. Or I think I saw somebody who is supposed to be educated writing in the papers saying, well, the Constitution says this, it is clear. Why is the president bothered? Why would he be bothered? Jesus Christ. How can the president not be bothered? The role of the responsibility of the president is to be bothered about the rights of the citizens, the respect of the Constitution, the implications of anything that touches the Constitution or the rights of the citizen. That's the responsibility of the president. Absolutely. The well-being, the security, and everything of the citizens of the country. So how can somebody say, why is the president bothered? Well, I would ask, why is he bothered himself? The one asking the question. Who has less responsibility, far less responsibility than the president. So it doesn't make sense that, so I am bothered, absolutely bothered. What is happening in the country, what will happen in this country is number one person to be bothered is the president of the country. So let's get it right. So I am bothered where we have come from, where we are, and where we are going. That's what I have been hired for in this responsibility I hold today. Whether, in fact, why I raise these questions is to make sure that we don't have a president who is not bothered come to my time of departure. Precisely. You may end up having a president who is not bothered. And you have got the worst deal in your lifetime. So that point has to be very clear. And in that debate, some people even say there was ambiguity. Well, it's a matter of choosing to see it that way. I don't think there was an ambiguity in what I raised in that meeting that underlies the debate that followed after. There's no ambiguity in my opinion, because I made 3 points very clear that are important to me, again, as a matter of the responsibility I carry for this country, or even as a citizen of this country, for that matter. One, I raised the issue of change, which is indeed entailed in the Constitution. The Constitution talks about change, that's why you are talking about term limits, that's why you are talking about 2017, and so on and so forth. So it talks about change. So what is expected come 2017 is change. That's the term limit means that. Then I talked about continuity, meaning continuity of progress the country has been making. I believe the country has been making progress. You may have your different views. That's your business. I'm talking about my business and my views. Number 3, I talked about stability. We need change, we need continued progress, and we need stability. That's what Rwanda needs. So Rwanda's situation is very complex. It's very unique, if you will. You can even call it special if you want. We have a history that is so complex, that is complicated. And it makes so everything else we have to deal with. You find a lot of complexity, you have a lot of complications in matters we have to deal with. So if you approached it in a business as usual manner, I don't think you are likely to make progress. So in a way, there is this unique situation we find ourselves in, and which will also be found in how we do business, in how we deal with our affairs. Absolutely, that's the way I see it. So the issue of saying, well, there is ambiguity, the president wants a third term, well, look at me. I am not the person who needs the third term. Just look at me. I don't need it. I don't do this job I am doing as a job for being paid, or as something that benefits me, or as something that pleases anyone else. It's not how I do business, it's not me. So I don't need your third term or whoever is saying it. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't go there to address people because I want to tell them about, or I want a third term. No, I don't want anything from you or from anybody. I want to do my business for which the people of Rwanda trusted me to carry out. And when I'm done, I'm done. That's how and I can continue to serve my country in different roles, in different ways. That's, so let's not trivialize it. Trivializing it means you take national matters like this or national interests like this, and you trivialize them. The well-being, the interests, the security, the future of 11 million people of Rwanda are all just made as simple as saying, well, the president wants another term, or it becomes one person, the president wanting this and that. And the whole essence of what the country should be doing, or the direction it should be moving into, or the well-being of the whole country is lost. And we just have this one thing going on around and around and around, instead of thinking about the future of this country. So I am thinking about the future of this country of Rwanda. I'm not thinking about the third term. This is secondary. So, first of all, somebody say one shouldn't be bothered. Secondly, to say the discussion, of course I know also that as we are here in this room, or like where in that room where we had that discussion, you are talking to 2,000 people, probably by the time they get out of the room, they have 2,000 different versions of what was talked about in that room. But my version was clear and straightforward. I said everything I had to say, and I meant what I said. But if there are people who were expecting to hear from me what they wanted to hear from me, no, I was there to be heard on what I wanted to say, not what somebody wanted to hear from me. There's a difference. I don't necessarily go to a place to tell people what they want to hear from me. I go to tell them what I want them to hear from me. So that is the difference. But there should be no different versions to that magnitude about what I said much as what I said, and because of the situation and the complexity of it, the matter necessarily doesn't get clear to everyone why one says what they say in reference or in relation to that situation. That's why maybe some already confused people get even more confused. But I'm not responsible for that. If you want confusion, that's what you get. If you want clarity, you get it. This is what I wanted to say about that. So, since I've been asked these questions all the time, whether here in the country or outside, I have responded to that in a way that puts the task on them to think about it and to be the ones to answer it, so that I can settle and do my business, the business for which these Rwandans elected me to do. So is there any other thing that is unambiguous about that? I have time to make further clarification. Because at least as far as I know, we may have another 30 versions of what I said. By the time we leave this room, I still want to narrow the number of versions that will come out of here. But most importantly, this Rwanda that has suffered for long and so much, I think it needs to be treated with a lot of respect and think very carefully and treat as important our future and the lives of our people is key. It's not and should not depend on semantics and some intellectual, all kinds of versions of how things should be looked at or even done. Right, so let's go to another point. If you are not satisfied or anybody, we can come to it later on.
So the next question will be from, we can go to Gatete.
Murakoze nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, sinzi niba mbere yo kubaza ikibazo cyanjye nabasaba munyemereye ku bijyanye n'iki kibazo mumaze gusubiza mu Cyongereza, byaba byiza muramutse mugishije mu Kinyarwanda kugira ngo Okay, murakoze cyane.
Languages. One of them I don't know very much. English, French, Rwanda. In French, I only hear what I want, but I'm not able to express what I want to say.
Murakoze cyane nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika kumpa ijambo. Mbanje kubashimira mu ngendo mumaze iminsi mujye mu baturage aho mukemura ibibazo by'akarengane kanyuranye kandi mu buryo bufatika. Mbere yo kubashimira mboneyeho no kubabaza ikibazo kijyanye n'akarengane kandi nanone gashingiye ku kuba hari abantu bamwe barengana ubutabera bwabigizemo uruhare cyangwa se abacamanza ku giti cyabo. Ndabaha urugero rufatika muzakurikirana nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika kuko nzi neza ko murwanya akarengane mwivuye inyuma rw'umugabo witwa Kanimba John uzwi ku izina rya She John. Ahantu hazwi ku izina rya She John ni muri Kicukiro district. Uwo musaza afite ikibazo cy'uko sosiyete ikora ibintu bya furnitures yagize ikibazo iraburanira atsindwa kuri miliyoni zirenga 30. Ari ikibazo cyaje kuvukira Excellency ni cyamunara yakozwe ikorerwa inyubako ze amagorofa 2 bagurisha n'indi gorofa ya 3 y'umuturanyi we bazi neza nawe bazi kariye. So your excellency bamusora mu nzu bajugunya ibintu bya hanze.
To advise you something. Ku case nk'ingi, I think we have people who can take it up. Nta bundi buguye igisubizo kizima kuko urambwira version yawe. And urambwira n'ibyaho umbwira uko byumva cyangwa uko wibwira ko ari byo, ariko sinzi ko ari byo. So ariko ndashaka kumenya ibyo uvuga birimo akarengane, then tukagakurikirana. Ntabwo ari ibintu nasubiriza hano ngira ngo ibintu by'urubanza ntabwo nabisubiriza hano ngo bibe bifite akamaro. Ariko icyo navuga uduhe urwo rubanza cyangwa iyo complaint, hanyuma turayihabaye dukurikirane. Niyo waba witwaje iki ntabwo bisobanuye. Subihe umuhe n'ibindi byose amuhaye ku case. Yes, good.
The next question will be from Maurice from Morinfo.
Murakoze nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, nitwa Ufitine Marimi Maurice, ndi umunyamakuru wa Morinfo. Ndabaza ku birebana n'amasezerano aherutse gusinyirwa muri Ethiopia arebana na Kongo. Ese aya masezerano abanyarwanda bayategerezeho iki ku birebana n'umutekano ujye ukunda gushaka guhungabanywa na FDLR ivuye muri Kongo? Ikindi se nanone bayategerezeho iki ku bibazo u Rwanda rujya ruhura nabyo, cyane cyane yo mu burasirazuba bwa Kongo habaye ibibazo by'intambara, ndavuga ko u Rwanda rushinjwa kubigiramo uruhare nanone rukakira n'impunzi. Ikindi ni ukwibaza ese uko ibintu bihagaze ubu muri Kongo mubibona gute mu burasirazuba bwa Kongo? Murakoze.
Yes, okay. Ubundi je ntabwo nshinzwe Kongo, ya Kongo byaba byiza kubibaza abanyekongo. Amasezerano twasinye muri Ethiopia ayibise peace framework ya DRC, byarebaga DRC n'ukuntu ibihugu bikikije DRC cyangwa n'ibindi byafasha muri Afrika, ari abaturanyi ari ibindi bihugu muri Afrika, uko byafasha kugira ngo Kongo igire amahoro. Ibibazo biba muri Kongo kandi ntabwo bigira ingaruka ku banyekongo gusa, bigira n'ingaruka ku baturanyi ndetse n'abaturanyi. Bimwe bishobora guturuka mu baturanyi nabyo bigira ingaruka kuri Kongo. Nk'urugero ku Rwanda, iyo dufiteyo interahamwe muri Kongo zavuye hano mu Rwanda, FDLR, bigira ingaruka kuri birumva ko ari byaturutse mu Rwanda bifite ingaruka muri Kongo. Niyo mpamvu rero n'abaturanyi babigiramo uruhare, bikavuga ngo dukorere hamwe dushaka amahoro. Iyo abonetse muri Kongo aboneka no mu baturanyi. Ubwo no mu baturanyi hadaturutse ibibazo bimwe, wenda no muri Kongo nabyo ntibyakwiyongera ngo bibe bibi kurusha uko byari bimeze. Niyo masezerano twasezeranye. Muri ayo masezerano rero y'amahoro, ubwo no kuvuga ngo iyo biturutse mu biganiro biba byabaye, abantu bose babigizemo uruhare, buri gihugu kiba gifite icyo kivanamo. Ubwo n'u Rwanda ruzavanamo amahoro, niko tubyumva cyangwa niko tubyifuza, kubera ko muri aya masezerano havugwamo n'ukuntu nk'interahamwe cyangwa FDLR bikwiriye kugenzwa mu buryo bw'ubufatanye. Ariko niyo byaba bitabaye ibikorwa bireba icyo kibazo, nibura ubwabyo n'imyumvire n'abantu kuba babiganira nabyo birya bari intambwe, niko nibwira ko biba bifite akamaro. Ubwo rero nicyo abanyarwanda bazaba bavanyemo nicyo kibazo kumenyekana no kuba cyashakirwa umuti mu bikorwa ariko biturutse no mu bufatanye bw'ibihugu by'aka karere cyangwa se n'abandi ko baba babyumvise.
The next question will go to Jenny from Reuters.
Thank you very much, Jenny Clover for Reuters. I wanted to ask two related questions about political opposition in Rwanda. Earlier this week, there were reports that opposition figures in South Africa were meeting with a view to coming back to Rwanda. I just wondered what your views are on those reports. And secondly, sort of related but different question, would you like to see more opposition parties being registered in Rwanda ahead of the elections later this year?
What is that?
You missed the second one. Would you like to see more opposition parties being registered in Rwanda ahead of the elections this year?
Opposition figures in South Africa wanting to come to Rwanda, they are welcome in any form and shape and in any way, whether they come peacefully or whether they come through other means, they are welcome. We welcome them in the manner they will be coming to Rwanda. So on that one, I think it is as simple as that. I even always wonder why they have to live outside. They need to come and live here. And face the challenges the other Rwandans face. The second one, if I want to see more opposition, I don't know what this means. I'm not responsible for the opposition. I'm not in the opposition. So, but as you say, if there are opposition groups around, whether they are 3 or 4 or 5 or 20, I know some would want even hundreds of them. But the opposition, I don't create the opposition. The opposition should develop and be there as of and by themselves. But as I've seen, we are used to people from outside, and also in the media, the opposition being something that we should create or they should create. So the media or others can keep creating as many oppositions as they want. For me, I will welcome them. Opposition. What does it even mean? I don't know. Opposition parties, you see, it is very strange. People tend to tell us that as many opposition parties or groups we have, the more democratic we are. And they have as few as, they never go beyond 2 or 3, actually, groups. These advocates of so many opposition groups, for them, they are always swinging between 2 and 3. They have 2 main ones known, and then they have others called independents who disappear one time and come back another time. But the main ones are always 2 or 3. But for Africa and for Rwanda, they should be like hundreds. In actual fact, it's interesting. Why? I have seen countries, even in our neighborhood, who have hundreds of opposition groups. Yet I've never seen them referred to as the most democratic countries you have around. On the contrary. So what is this whole thing about opposition? So my sister, the opposition, if you have someone you want to introduce, you're welcome. Yes. There is a place for them. Mm-hmm.
The next question will go to Radio Télé Congo from Brazzaville, Mr. Chumu. I think for this one you might need translation, Mr. President. English on channel 1, it's in French.
Monsieur le Président, Excellence, ma question c'est en français, étant donné que je suis du Congo-Brazzaville. Bon.
I hope you'll say what I am interested in hearing. That's when I will get to understand it. Otherwise, I need a translator for something else.
D'accord. Monsieur le Président, depuis bientôt 3 ans, on a constaté qu'il y a un rapprochement entre le Rwanda et la côte atlantique, notamment par le développement de la relation entre Kigali et Brazzaville, où vous vous êtes rendu il n'y a pas longtemps encore.
Oh, so I have. Can you wait? I didn't know there was. Go ahead.
C'est bon. D'accord.
Maybe start over again.
Oui, je vais recommencer. Voilà, Excellence, je disais que depuis bientôt 3 ans, on a constaté que le Rwanda se rapproche un peu ou se tourne vers la côte atlantique, notamment en développant la relation entre Kigali et Brazzaville. Et il n'y a pas longtemps encore que vous avez été à Oyo, village natal du président Denis Sassou Nguesso. Alors ma question, c'est de savoir, dans votre stratégie politique ou diplomatique, que représente pour vous l'axe Kigali-Brazzaville? Et pour les populations des deux pays, à quand réellement les effets palpables de cette relation qui est en train de se développer? Voici ma première question. La deuxième, je la poserai prochainement, après. Merci.
Oh, this one. But I don't think it is the first time we are relating to countries on the Atlantic coast. We have had this relationship for a very long time. In fact, we used to be members of one organization that brings most of those countries on the Atlantic coast. What is the name of this? CRC or something. We used to be members of that. So it means we are really, maybe we are just going back to what we used to be related to. It's not a new thing. In fact, we also have, it's really a relationship on our continent. It has nothing to do with being on the western or eastern coast. Even we have relations with people as far as Senegal. We have an embassy there. We have, so it's why would people be surprised that we are relating to countries on our continent when we relate to countries outside of our continent? So we have a good relationship with Congo Brazzaville. We even have an airline serving between here and Brazzaville, and it goes up to Libreville and different places. We have others going down south to South Africa, and we relate and for different reasons sometimes, but mainly for similar reasons with the rest of the countries on our continent. So there is really not much else I can say about that. You said you have another question?
Second question?
Yeah, you said you have one. You want to bring it at the end or now?
Vous pouvez poser la deuxième question.
So you have a similar problem as me. You have to keep benefiting from translation.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président, merci. Ma deuxième question, c'est qu'on reconnaît, on le voit, on le constate, et les gens disent que, au niveau de l'Afrique et même hors d'Afrique, que le Rwanda est un pays clean. Et je m'explique, on dit que le Rwanda est clean, socialement clean, physiquement clean, on le constate dans la ville, et peut-être mentalement aussi clean. Vous avez réussi ce que bien de vos confrères n'ont pas pu faire. Et il y en a bien qui rugissent en regardant les effets de cette politique chez vous. Alors, j'aimerais savoir quelle est votre recette pour réussir à faire du Rwanda un pays clean. Bon, je mettrai entre guillemets, il n'est pas clean, il ne peut pas être clean à 100%. Mais au moins, vous avez fait un grand pas. Alors, quelle est donc votre recette? Une recette qui pourrait peut-être un jour être contenue dans un livre que vous pourrez intituler « Comment j'ai vaincu la malgouvernance ou la corruption ». Et cela aiderait peut-être bien des leaders africains ou même hors d'Afrique à mieux gérer leur pays. Alors, quelle est cette recette, Monsieur le Président? Voilà ma deuxième question.
Well, thank you for the good comments, but let me say, yes, we are trying, as Rwanda, we are trying. And I will say, well, many times I don't want even, I don't want us to be compared with others. When one does this, it's as if it introduces a bad taste for nothing. But I want us to be judged on what we are doing and the results we are getting out of what we are doing for ourselves and for anything. Now, when you, in the recipe, I think what I can say here is maybe people should be asking themselves if that's what they want, meaning others, in reference to your question. It should be like, well, if Rwanda can be this clean or can fight corruption and make good progress and benefit from it and you appreciate it, I think the main thing I would encourage would be people to say, well, if Rwanda can do it, we can do it. Why can't we do it? It starts with the conviction that anybody else can do it with different levels of success. Maybe some can even get better at it than Rwanda. But people have to be convinced. They have to want to do that they see and get the benefits they see that we feel we are getting from it. There is really no other way of putting it other than that, because it is done by people. Or why it doesn't happen, it's because people there don't do it. Now, it starts with making the choice. Do you want to do certain things in certain ways? Do you want to fight corruption? Since we know the negative aspects of corruption, do leaders, do people want to fight corruption? They can do it. Do they want examples? Yes. They can say, well, in Rwanda they are fighting it to some degree of success. So that is an encouragement that they can do it also. You cannot succeed even if you hired Rwandans to come and do it for you. No. You've got to be wanting to do it for yourself, and you do it, and you get the results. This is what I can encourage people to be thinking about, is to say, well, if Rwanda can, even Rwanda, you can even put it that way, say, even Rwanda can do it and get progress. Then you say, oh, but I can do it and get the same progress. Whether it is fighting corruption, or whether it is cleanliness, or whether it is anything else. It starts with what you want and what is in your mind. So maybe you would help tell him the part he missed, because I'm seeing he just go to the translation piece, yeah. So it's really whether people want and what they want. Whether, if they want to fight corruption, if they want good governance, if they want to build institutions, if they want to be clean, they can, anybody, any country can achieve it, especially if they say, oh, but how, if Rwanda can do it, why can't we? And if they give it a go, they may find they succeed even better than Rwanda.
Thank you. The next question, Edmund from East African.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Edmund Kajiri. I work for the East African newspaper. Your Excellency, my question has to do with a government program known as the Crop Intensification Program. One of the opposition parties in the country recently released a statement raising concerns that the implementation of this program has caused a number of concerns among the citizens. Among other things, they said some local leaders have uprooted crops of citizens in areas zoned for particular crops in a way that they say is overzealous or overambitious. Your Excellency, how can such government programs be implemented without causing some unrest among the citizens? Thank you very much.
Right. As you are saying it, if it happened and where it happened, it shouldn't have happened. Meaning, bad practice or poor implementation of a good program that hurts citizens is bad. It doesn't even have to come from the opposition. It's just bad. I'm sure seeing what is bad in this is not confined to the opposition. The opposition discovers something that people already know too well. Now, let me make a distinction here. Crop intensification program is good. It's very good. It has benefited more citizens by far than those who may complain about it. So for me, this is, and it has transformed the lives of these citizens by far, by far, in comparison with what you have had before. There isn't even anything you could compare it with. So it's good to have it. We want to encourage it. Has it had bad practices during implementation? I think going by what you are saying, this may be true. So we have now to turn our attention to actually making sure that the implementation part does not have this side effect, does not affect the citizens. I think that's the most important thing. Even trying to talk to the citizens of ours to understand the benefits they have in it, to do it when they are convinced that it is in their interest, is also our responsibility. You know, you may have a good policy, you may have a good program, but if you rush it and you don't even communicate with the people to make them understand how good it is for them and what is important in it, it's a good way of doing things. I mean, it's a wrong way of doing things. It's a bad way of doing things. people need to be communicated to, they need to be educated, they need to be convinced so that they own what is being done to improve their lives. So I think this is where I am. I would not scrap the crop intensification program because in some place, for some few people, it affected them badly in this way because of local leaders or poor implementation. I would rather concentrate on two things. I would engage these people who feel it is a problem when it actually shouldn't be a problem, and convince them that it is good for them. And I would also concentrate on the leaders to say, when you are working with the people and you want them to carry out such important programs, it's good you explain to them. Secondly, don't be overzealous in terms of implementation. Try to do it the best way you can do it.
Next question, Albert from Contact FM.
Albert Udatsimburga from Contact FM. Mr. President, of lately, in this ending of the ICTR processes, say, in Arusha, they've been generating some quite contradiction and bad taste for Rwandans in the latest processes. I believe that the next big thing on which Rwanda will have to have a stand will be the archives of the ICTR. As we are winding up, what is your take on that? Because it has been a debate. Are we any further now? Is Rwanda getting a copy, or is Rwanda inheriting the archives of the ICTR?
Well, you know, that has been an outstanding issue, and Rwanda is definitely interested in hosting the archives for ICTR and for really our history and for what happened in Rwanda in terms of genocide and so on. Primarily and logically, and I don't see why people don't understand it, but you must also understand the world we live in, how it operates. Normally, it would have been a straightforward thing. But so far it isn't. Therefore, we still have this debate going on, or discussion about it, and whether it should be hosted in Rwanda. And we have expressed sufficient interest and explanation for this to be the case, that Rwanda should host the ICTR archives. So we will continue to press for that. So let's wait and see. That's what I can say about that. Mm-hmm.
Could I just also maybe be more precise for the audience also to understand? Do you think that there is something in there in the archives that the people opposing the archives going to Rwanda don't want Rwanda to see?
Well, I think you've really said it for me as well. I just see it the way you see it. I think there is look at what is happening over the last number of years. Definitely, you know, it's what I referred to yesterday in some of my comments during the swearing in of the ministers in the parliament. There are more things at play that don't come to surface, that people don't see. In fact, what you see happening and the way it happens is much less than what is behind, operating. And my observation over the years, this is how things have been happening. You see genocide perpetrators freely being released from, in a very bizarre manner. You see others living in these Western capitals not being tried or tried partially and released, and cases of this nature being played about, and pushed around here and there, and then in the end, the very murderers of people here getting away with it. And it's not because these countries don't have good justice institutions to try people, or judicial institutions. It's not because they don't know. It's not, no. There's some hidden association. There's some of these hidden agendas. And then you see how the problem of FDR we were talking about a while ago had almost been forgotten, and people are interested even in bringing other issues as if, to make them more important, and so divert their attention to those issues. So the FDR genociders, running around in eastern Congo and beyond, and even in those capitals, freely, being able to evade really justice, and with full attention of, the very people who have many good stories for us about justice, about human rights, about freedoms, and so on one hand they are playing games with these cases, on the other they are, and then this is what at the end of the day I was saying, you see a process because of that precisely, where victims are turned into perpetrators and perpetrators turned into victims. This is what I see. For me, that's why you can put it. I don't know what others see, but so there is a lot that happens behind the scenes that begs a lot of answers. So it's the same games that the archives played around like this, and they would rather have them in some other place where maybe it's a lot of stuff. So people have to be constantly vigilant and keep fighting with the tools they have, and speak out and speak up for all these things. I think if the people doing the wrong things don't get tired, why should the people doing the right things get tired? This is my question. So those who are fighting on the right side should not get tired. They should keep up the fight. If those fighting on the wrong side are not getting tired, why should somebody else get tired?
Clément from Fresh FM.
Murakoze, nitwa Clement Uwiringiyimana, ntutse kuri Radio Flash. Ku munsi w'ejo abaminisitiri ubwo barahiraga hagaragayemo impinduka, umuntu akibuka mu 2010 ubwo mwavuga ko ikipe itsinda burya itagipfa gusimburwa, umuntu akibaza ese izi mpinduka zaba zaratewe n'iki? Murakoze.
Ntabwo ikipe yasimbuwe ariko ikipe ye ragirira cyane nk'uko yahoze, ahubwo mbere hasimbuwe wenda abakinnyi mu ikipe, ariko ikipe ntabwo yahinduwe. So ngira ngo urabizi nyine wakoresheje urugero rw'ikipe ese nka y'umupira w'amaguru, habaho bya bindi basimbura abakinnyi, umwe akaruhuka undi akazamo, hari ubwo biba ari ukuruhuka gusa cyangwa kugira ngo utegereze umukino w'ejo azaba atarushye azaba akine neza, cyangwa bitewe n'uko umukino wagendaga hari ubwo coach ashobora kwifuza either a defensive or attacking posture for the team. Ntabwo bivuze rero ko the attacking player or the defensive player are bad players, no. You relate the kind of game and what the players are good at with the results you want. So that's why in my privilege as a coach of this team, I have to constantly, keep observing how the game is being played and what the results we want, and keep. I don't know, guhindura abakinnyi in the field ukamuvana hamwe ukamushyira ahandi bitewe n'ukuntu umukino developing, sibyo? So there is the team has been good. Team yari imeze neza, yari iriho mbere uko yari iteye n'abari bayirimo n'ingiyi n'abayirimo ndibwira ko imeze neza. Ubu naho bwakera nkabona hari I still have the pleasure of adjusting it the way I see it.
Thank you. Next question, Shaka Kanuma, Rwanda Focus.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you. My name is Chaka Kanuma, and I am privileged to have been present when the NEC extended meeting was going on. Mr. President, you may remember that a week actually before that, I could have been some kind of foreteller. I wrote in the Rwanda Focus, no need to speculate. The President is leaving when his time is coming, because of the faith we have in you and the respect for the institutions of this country, Mr. President. But getting back to the point of I believe that when you talked about the people trying to twist things, I was very surprised when some prominent journalist picked an article I had written on Twitter and posted it and put words in my mouth about third terms and so on. Yes, when actually, exactly. Exactly. And I was I told him, look, if that is the way you do journalism in your countries there, we don't do it that way here. We look at the facts. So, yes, in fact, so we would like to say that we were actually doing our homework, putting the debate out there the way it was presented precisely. And so we would like to also say that the homework will go on. We will go on practicing the excellent journalism that Rwandan people will expect of us. And thank you very much for clarifying that last point, Mr. President.
Question. And arising out of the debate, and arising out of the many questions I'm asked that gave rise to this debate in the first place, if there is trust that there are many questions that I will do what I have said I will do relating to what is there, meaning the Constitution and so on and so forth. Why then would people continue asking this question? Why don't people just keep the trust and wait until it is over? Now, in the same way, if actually people don't trust, still, I don't think they should be asking the question, because if you don't trust me, at the same time you want to rely on my answer to you, then there is still a problem, isn't it? Either way, because if you trust me, then you keep interrogating me whether this is going to happen, this is not going to happen, like this, and so on and so forth. I find it strange. Now, if you don't trust me, and you still keep asking me, and therefore believing that I'll give you the right answer, then there is a contradiction. If you don't trust me, then most likely I give you the answer that doesn't please you, isn't it? Or the wrong answer that doesn't fit what you want.
May I clarify a little bit there, Mr. President?
Yes.
Actually, even if, no matter how clear you have been here, people will still go and try to turn it into another third-term issue. Why? Because it sells newspapers. It makes them be listened to. They will still have, there will be a slow news day, and someone will say, oh, okay, I think I will bring up Mr. Kagame in this one and talk about a third term and gin up a few cells. So it is a bit cynical, although I will not be talking for the entire journalism profession because there are those who are really not cynical. But it's a reality that every politician lives with, Mr. President. I cannot condescend to you.
Yeah, but you see, I know, but I appreciate that. And much as I seem to be complaining about it, I don't really mind. We can live with it for as long as we have to live with it. But even for intellectual purposes, my question then is, actually, what happens to the citizens? Do we subject this whole matter of the future of the country to only a few journalists, to keep saying? You remember in one of my answers on the Twitter, I said, well, this debate is welcome. Let's go on for as long as we want with it. But at the end of the day, let's remember that Rwandans have to decide. You remember? Exactly. And therefore that raises the question for me, even I'm just trying to raise it with you, even for intellectual purposes. It's as if what should happen in this country or for the future of these people has to be decided by one or two or three or four or even 10 individuals who keep saying this and that and so on and so forth, and entirely forget the rights of these citizens and actually the power they have to decide on what they want to decide. Because even the so-called, even the constitution people talk about, they forget that actually this constitution was put in place by these people, not by these journalists. Isn't it? Yes. Who put this constitution or any other, who put in place the constitution? Well, long ago, which surprisingly is to be well appreciated, constitutions here used to be written by single individuals, by people. But somebody sat and there's one man who used to write, a foreigner also, who would sit and write a constitution of this country. And by the way, this was considered democratic, isn't it? Oh, there is a lot of fooling around with the people. I think we really made good fools of, by these discussions. So, again, sometimes, it's, that's why actually I remember I told the people, I said, people don't even know how I'm dying to get out of this place. Because it would give me more freedom to really give peace, people my peace of mind. Sometimes I reserve, because, sometimes I'm not helped by how I say things or even what I say. So I'm always holding back so that I don't add confusion to the already confused situation. But when I'm out of this place, I think I would freely say anything and only be held accountable in a different way. Because somebody says, no, you can't touch it. No, nobody can touch this constitution. But who put it in place? Who puts in place a constitution? So sometimes the debates look childish. You see? You tell me, oh, nobody can touch this constitution, but how about the one who put it there? Or what was there before that one went there? And tell me which constitution in the world that has never been touched? Which one? Tell me.
Even the one of the US has been amended.
Oh, every day. Even now they are going to amend it. For this gun thing, what is it? So what are people talking about? And the people, the intellectuals, what are they? Why don't you think beyond, small things? You're confining yourself. Well, but okay, let me even go beyond that. By the way, how about countries that don't have constitutions? Don't we have them?
As long as they have oil, no one is going to talk about it.
No. Even those who don't actually, even those who only exploit oil. It is not those who have it. It's even those who want it that don't have constitutions. You don't know developed powers that don't have constitutions?
Britain, for example, they have.
Oh, I didn't know. I was only thinking aloud that somehow there must be people without even constitutions. But so what do they go by? I'm sure many things change every day in those versions. So these are some of the things sometimes I just hesitate to talk about. But my question is, does anybody give? On one hand, you say this is something for these people, and they are the ones who put it in place, and then you say they can't do that. Well, I don't want to say more of it to add confusion, because somebody might be reading my mind and say, oh, so. But anyway, I don't mind confuse the people. So, what else?
Next question.
Murakoze nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika, nitwa Tuyisenge Leonard, muri ikinyamakuru Izuba Rirashe. Ikibazo cyanjye ni ikijyanye n'ibiza bimaze iminsi byibasiye igihugu hirya no hino. Nanjye hari icyo nemera nk'umunyamakuru, nemera ko hari ibintu bigomba gukorwa, abaturage bakimurwa kugira ngo harengerwe ubuzima bwabo. Ariko harimo abaturage batuye kera mu buryo bwemewe n'amategeko. Abaturage rero barimo baribaza se uko kwimurwa kwabo na expropriation bazabakorera hari icyo ingengo y'imari yabiteganyije.
Barimurwa bitewe n'ibyo biza
kugira ngo wimurirwe ahandi hantu hashobora kurengera ubuzima bwabo.
None ikibazo ni iki?
Ikibazo bibaza ni ikijyanye n'uko harimo abatujwe kera mu buryo bwemewe, harimo n'abaje bagatura mu buryo butemewe. Abagomba kwimurwa rero baribaza, kuko ni benshi dukurikije imiterere y'igihugu cyacu cy'imisozi miremire, ikigaragara nuko bazimurwa ari benshi. Baribaza niba ibi byarateganijwe muri mu ngengo y'imari, ese niba naho bazimurirwa harabonetse. Murakoze.
Ndibwira ariko ko bababwira kwimuka cyangwa bababwira ko bazimurwa, bagomba kuba bababwira n'ukuntu bizakorwa. Icyo ni cyo umuntu yakurikirana, kureba ko ntabwo wajya kubwira umuntu gusa ngo imuka utamubwira uko biri bukorwe cyangwa n'aho hajya. Nabyo biramutse bikozwe byaba nyine, ariko ngira ngo inzego za leta zibishinzwe zigomba kubikurikirana. Kwimura abantu bifite ishingiro bigomba kuba bibaha no kumva aho bakwiriye kuba bajya n'ukuntu byagenda. Ubu icyo ni ikibazo nanone kijyanye no gushyira mu bikorwa ibigomba gukorwa, so abantu babikurikirana bakareba niba bikorwa neza.
Next question from Teledis.
Murakoze nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, nitwa Patrick Muneza, nkaba naje mpagarariye TV10 na Radio 10. Ikibazo cyanjye kirarebana n'iterambere ry'abaturage ndetse n'imibereho myiza yabo. Mwabwiye abaturage muti ni mwibumbire mu makoperative muzatera imbere. Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, mwarabyiboneye ubwo mwasuraga abaturage muri no minsi ishize, bareberetse barabibatangarije kandi kuko mwarabibonye ko amakoperative yabateje imbere. Bishyiriyeho amakoperative, bagena ubuyobozi bwayo, ariko igitangaje nuko ikigo cy'igihugu gishinzwe amakoperative aricyo RCA hari aho usanga kivanga mu miyoborere y'ayo makoperative. Bityo rero ugasanga abaturage bashobora kuba bagira ikibazo cy'uko bishobora kugorana kuba bakwizera ko icyo kigo kitazivanga mu mibereho y'amakoperative yabo. Ndatanga urugero
kuko biroroshye. Turi gutanga n'urugero kuko ndemera ibyo uvuga ko bishobora kuba biri. Ariko ukirebye nk'uko nawe wakivuze, inyungu z'ayo makoperative zaragaragaye mu baturage benshi. Hari aho iki kigo, ubwo ni ukuvuga ngo aho byagaragaye naho ikigo kitivanze, reka bivuge nti aho kivanze ibintu byagenze nabi, wenda ubwo ni 1% cyangwa ni 3%. Icyo twakora ni ukureba ngo iki kigo ibyo gishinzwe n'ibyo gikoze, ni ukunganira abaturage, kubagira inama, kubereka uburyo kujya mu makoperative n'ukuntu bayakoresha byabungukira. Ibindi byo kujya kwivanga mu makoperative bikanatera ibibazo, ibyo byakosorwa, ibyo abantu bakwiye kubikosora. Aho byabaye ni ukuhamenya, tukabikoresha nyine nk'urugero nk'uko wari ubivuze, tukabwira ikigo ngo aha warivanze bifite ingaruka zitajyanye n'izo dutezemo, bigakosorwa. Ariko nshimye ko atangiriye kuvuga ngo amakoperative y'ubwayo yagiriye akamaro abanyarwanda. So cyo bizakosorwa rero, kugira ngo minisitiri barabyumva. Ndareba minisitiri local government hangaha azunganira abo baturage, abikurikirana, amenye ikibazo cyaturutse kugira ngo bikosorwe, bikorane n'abashinzwe icyo kigo, kireke gukora nabi kirushaho gukora neza.
Next question, Professor Wolfgang.
Mr. President, your country has quite a reputation in terms of the visionary forest policy you have developed and implemented in recent years. Under your government, you made new Urugwiro National Park. The gaps around Gishwati are being closed. Reforestation is evident everywhere around the country. The question, of course, is what's happening in the neighborhood of Rwanda. And in the East African neighbor countries, there are the issues of Mabira and the Mau Forest and the Eastern Arc Mountains in Tanzania, which are being heavily logged. What is your government doing? What are you doing in order to get your colleagues on board? Because otherwise there will be a green Rwanda in 20 years in the midst of wastelands. The other area I would like you to touch on is the revised budget statement, which was read last week in Parliament. It was particularly mentioned that Rwanda and your Kigali Convention Center will be getting budget support, but of course Rwanda needs a new airport. Bugesera was not mentioned, and the railway link between Isaka in Tanzania and Kigali was also not mentioned. So I would like to have possibly a word from you whether these two additional very important infrastructure projects beside Rwanda and besides the National Convention Center are also going to be getting the priority the airline and the hospitality sector are getting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. For the East Africa, with our neighbors, we can only interact and talk to each other, because there are these meetings that take place every now and then, sectoral meetings or other meetings. We can only share with our neighbors, with our brothers and sisters, any concerns, as I'm sure they may do on other matters with us. So that working together helps address many issues, including this one. So we can only communicate. I'm sure they also know the consequences of this. First of all, the first people to know are those people where such things are taking place. So it's not that we will be telling them things they don't know or that showing them things they don't see. It's only sharing information and concerns as we normally do on anything in the meetings that bring the East African partner states together at different levels. So we can only do that, nothing beyond, because we don't formulate policy or even implement policies for other countries. We do it only for Rwanda. Then on issues of the revised budget statement and Rwanda, you see, you at any one time you do what you can do and try to find ways and means to do other things you are not able to do at that time. So what we are able to deal with in this way is Rwanda. It's immediate, it's already ongoing, and it's something we can do something about. The National Convention Center and the railway and many other things, these are things we may keep paying attention to also in the medium or even short or medium or long term. But we want to bring in private sector more than government being able to really take on these heavy investments all at once. Even for Rwanda, even as we build it, as we continue to strengthen it and invest in it, we are looking for partners, private investors or partners to work with, to reduce the burden on our contributions. So, conventional center, the railway, we've been working with the people in different ways, but the aim being to bring in private capital to deal with the situation.
Next question, Stephanie from AFP.
Thank you, Mr. President. Stephanie from AFP. Yesterday, you created a new Ministry of States, especially for mine. And previously in Davos, you announced a stock exchange that, if I understood well, included mineral. So I just want to ask you first question, what does it mean politically and economically for Rwanda about these two decisions? And second question.
Which two decisions? The one of mines and then
yes,
the other one is what?
Creating a ministry especially for mine, do there is project, you know, what I mean, it is there is a goal if you create perhaps the ministry. And what is the second question, what is the responsibility of Rwanda just to help people to fight against blood mineral? What is the concretely thing that Rwanda can do to help? Thank you.
Okay, but I'm surprised a bit because why would you be interested in minerals more than health? We created the Minister of State for Health as well. It's not a big concern, but for minerals it becomes a political concern. But okay, I think I will tell you. First of all, the main reason for focusing, say, on minerals and so on is even how increasingly it is contributing to our growth and GDP and how it is benefiting the country. Because we are finding a lot of minerals. There has been a lot of prospecting for minerals in Rwanda, but we have had minerals anyway before. Much as there is always a political aspect of it, relating again with our neighbors, and I have seen this being played around, and maybe it is also hidden in the question. It's about minerals. They talk about, even in this conflict of Congo, people have politicized the issue of minerals, almost implying as if the mineral wealth that Rwanda has, or that it doesn't have, but the revenues coming from minerals are revenues coming from minerals from outside of Rwanda. This has always been the game played, but well, there are minerals here in Rwanda. Increasingly, we are benefiting from that. We need to think about organizing this sector because of not only the benefits we are having from it in terms of money, but also because of the situation we have to deal with that has these implications that are confused, and we need to sort them out. So singling it out and giving it a Minister of State is as important as singling out a Minister of State for Health to deal with matters of health, primary health care, and other issues. So for us, it's mainly focused here on economic benefits, but it also answers some of these other side issues of political nature that are unnecessarily brought into the question, so that over time we bring in more clarity, so that people who are trying to confuse issues deliberately are denied an opportunity to confuse issues. That's why for us, when it came, say, to mineral tagging, I don't think there's any country in this whole region that does it better than we are doing it. In fact, we might even be the only people who are doing it. So it has helped us. It has helped us to isolate the sources of confusion that was, while others, it doesn't have as much effect on them as as it has on us. In fact, it is as if all these efforts were created more to overburden Rwanda than to deal with the real problem they are talking about. So we are happy to do our best in making sure that our minerals have clarity as to where they have come from, that they are from here, you can trace the origin, you can do what. But there are hundreds of millions, if not even billions, of minerals that move around this region. By the way, benefiting and involving those countries that are behind putting there these measures, whose credit is not to be talked about. You see, this is the whole. If you look at people involved in mining, even say in our neighborhood, in the neighboring countries, benefiting from that, and they turn around and there's nothing clear about those minerals for those by those people, but they turn around and say, no, let's make sure Rwanda doesn't. So they are the ones doing that without clarity, and they are the ones focusing on Rwanda for clarity. So again, maybe it is to hide behind that, and but we are happy to be very clear on our issues. And back to your question, the Minister or the Minister of State responsible for that is to reinforce that clarity, which saves us a lot of burden from outside and continues to benefit us the way we should benefit from our own resources that are confused for other resources.
Mr. President, at this point, we'd like to propose to take 2 to 3 more and bring this to an end.
Okay, let's go along and see.
City Radio.
Murakoze nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, nitwaye Dimwerekande nkorera City Radio. Ikibazo cyanjye kirarebana na Minisiteri y'Uburezi. Mu cyumweru gishize bashyize ahagaragara ibizamini by'abanyeshuri basoza icyiciro cy'amashuri yisumbuye. Hakaba hari abari barakoze ibizamini barenga 570 b'abakandida bigenga cyangwa kandida libre. Byabaye ngombwa yuko izo results zitashyizwe ahagaragara. Ku ruhande rwa Minisiteri bo bavuga ko ibigo bakoreye bitari byujuje ibisabwa. Abanyeshuri bagasanga birimo akarengane, ndetse ntago bigeze bamenyeshwa kuko ngo bujuje amafishe ya Minisiteri nk'uko bisanzwe. Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, twagira ngo mugire icyo mubivuga. Murakoze.
Hari impamvu wowe waba ufite ituma ushidikanya ku byo Minisiteri ivuga kuri icyo kibazo? Naho ubusanzwe bwo hari n'ubwo uzafatira umuntu mu cyuho ukavuga uti ibyo ukora ntabwo ari byo, ahubwo ati ntabyo nakoraga, ntabwo ari byo. So icyo gihe ureba impande zombi ukareba byari byo bamufatiye mu cyuho n'ibyakoraga, ubivuga aramubeshyera. Ibyo ni ibintu bigomba gusuzumwa. Ariko ikibazo cya mbere nahemvuze ni ukubaza ngo ubu ni nko kuvuga ngo hari ikibazo hagati ya Minisiteri y'Uburezi n'abanyeshuri. So nuvuga ngo rero ese Minisiteri y'Uburezi yaba yibeshya cyangwa itubeshya cyangwa ibyo uvuga atari byo? Ese ni abanyeshuri? So ubwo no gushaka rero ukuri kwabyo. Byo kugeza ubu nabyumviseho, ariko nta kintu cyanyerekaga ko nashidikanya ku byo Minisiteri y'Uburezi yavugaga. So ariko niba hari abantu ko babibona ko bishoboka kuba ari byo, nabyo abantu babikurikirana ukuri kukamenyekana aho bituruka. Ariko hari uburyo ibintu bigomba gukorwa byanyuranya nabyo bikaba ubwo bifite ikindi kibazo biteye, noneho abantu bakagomba kubishyira mu buryo.
Take a question from Rushyashya.
Nitwa Burasa Jean Gualbert, nkora ikinyamakuru Rushyashya. Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, uyu mwaka turimo wa 2013 hateganyijwe amatora y'abagize inteko ishinga amategeko, ndavuga abadepite. Ariko Nyakubahwa Perezida, abaturage twaganiriye nabo bafite uburyo bashaka ko habaho impinduka uburyo ayo matora akorwa. Ndavuga nkuko itegeko nshinga bivuga, hakorwa za liste zivuye mu mitwe y'amashyaka. Ariko abaturage bo bakavuga bati twebwe turahatirwa gutora abantu tudashaka donc badashoboye cyangwa se bafite inenge nk'uko byagiye bigaragara igihe babaga bageze mu kazi. Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika musanga ubwo buryo bukoreshwa igihe kitageze kugira ngo buhinduke? Murakoze.
Wenda igihe cyaba kigeze ariko ntaho mfite mpera hanyemeza ko bigeze. Nabo uvuga ugomba kuba uvuga abo wahisemo. Hagomba kuba hari abandi bavuga ko sinibwira ko abantu bose abo wabaje niba ari babiri niba ari batatu bakavuga batyo, sinzi ko abandi batanu utabajije batavuga bati nta kibazo tubona. Ariko niba barabivuze icyo gihe ni ugukurikirana kureba nyine ko hari abantu babyiga bakareba niba abantu benshi ariko batekereza cyangwa se igihe kigeze koko cyo kubihindura. Njye nta kibazo nagira cyo kugira ngo ibintu bihinduke bibereye abantu benshi uko babitekereza, nta kibazo nagira. Niba niyo debate yabagaho nyine sinzi aho yakorerwa neza. Local government, what is your assessment? What are the people's views? Can we create a framework where people raise their concerns widely and we know what is right to be done and so on? What is it?
Murakaza Excellency, ubu ngubu actually it's the right time kuko n'itegeko ribigenga riri mu parliament, harimo izindi adjustments. Ntabwo iyo issue yari yarigeze ba raised no mu parliament, ubundi muri commission, parliamentary commission banannouncinga ko iyo topic iriho bayiganira bakinvitinga n'abantu kuza gutanga ibitekerezo. Ariko nk'uko mwarimu muvuze Excellency, we can now we need an opportunity yuko twaganira na parliament noneho abantu bakinvitinga views
bakareba how widespread these views are cyangwa ishingiro ryabyo. And I'm open to these discussions, but more in a broad way kurusha ko cyaba ikintu umuntu yatekereje gusa sentimental akumva ko cyahinduka ariko kidasuitinga wenda abandi bantu. Let's take another one or two and we go on.
Question from BBC.
Oh, you mean the BBC was here and you ignored it?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm President Sengyum from BBC. I would like to ask you a question related to what you alluded to earlier about the recent peace accord that was signed in Addis Ababa. A couple of days ago, there was reports of gunshot violence within M23. Excuse me. I would like to know what would that mean? What kind of impact that would have on the ongoing peace talks and in the region as a whole? And if you allow, Mr. President, the second question is about the recent budget support cuts from donor countries, some donor countries. I would like to know how sure are you and how confident are you that these budget support aid will be reinstated anytime soon? Thank you.
On the first one of M23, what happens in M23, who is fighting who, I'll tell you, I don't even mind, I don't care, I don't follow. So if it is another way of sorting themselves out, I'm not going to comment on that. Avoid being accused of being a supporter of M23 again, or this time one faction against the other. So I just leave it at that. It will be sorted out by themselves, by the Congolese, by those leading the process of, the international conference of the Great Lakes region. I think they are better placed to deal with such a matters than I am. My main concern, of course, I will probably raise the same questions when I am participating in these conferences because we want peace in Eastern Congo, we want peace in the Congo, and we want peace in the region because we in the end, peace benefits all of us. So I don't know much about what's happening in M23 or the implication that has, I don't know on who, whether it is on them or on peace or for everybody. I'm not very sure. And I think my take has always been, I think the issue of M23 has been exaggerated or blown out of proportion, but to hide much bigger problems that are there. You see, just to give you a simple example, we know of crimes that have been taking place in that situation for as many as more than 10, 15, or 18 years. We know that. The same rape, killings, looting, all kinds of things. All that all of a sudden disappears. Nobody is doing it, nobody is responsible for it. It is M23 committing the worst crimes ever on earth, you know? So M23, that thing called that existed, started existing since when? Is it now 1 year or so, right? Huh? Yes. Okay, let's call it a year. Fine. And let's say they are responsible for all the crimes on earth and in that place, right? Are we saying before that, before the existence, nothing was actually happening? Or it was the same people who were who were there in another form that were doing that, and then this time they came together and continued that, and the others are innocent. But as we saw it, the reports we saw, during the time there was fighting, and then the time I understand when the issue of when there was this Goma thing, when they were running Goma, people who were fleeing this thing called M23 were on rampage, looting and killing and raping, and so even this becomes M23 by the nature of what they are doing. So I get confused about this. I think this whole thing has, it masks the more questions that need to be raised and answers to be found for them. So, but for whatever is going on with M23 and what else, I will say good enough it is, there are frameworks to deal with that. There is ICGLR, there are other regional efforts beyond, and now there is the UN, which has been there anyway for a long time. So hopefully we can keep finding ways of reining in all these groups. I only keep also going back to the one that tends to be forgotten and is actually the worst in the situation, and that is FDLR and these genociders. Where they are, what they are doing, who is doing what with them, and these are issues of my concern more than anything else. But put together, we have a clear path to follow and to work together to find solutions for all these problems. But I think this whole M23 thing has become just something to cover up for even the bigger problems that are there. So we hope whatever is happening there doesn't derail the process of finding peace in Eastern Congo and in our region. We need to remain vigilant. Whether it is this or any other, nothing should derail the path we are on. That's all I can say.
You take the last question from
Anyone feeling is missing out on asking me something? Maybe?
Asumain from Rugari.
Since you are seated together, why don't you combine your question and one person?
Murakoze nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, nitwa Asumani Nyunambaza mu kinyamakuru Rugari. Iki kibazo kijyanye n'isuku ku nyubako za leta. Nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, iyo umunyamahanga cyangwa abanyamahanga bageze i Kanombe bakareba isuku ihari, na hano twicaye ubwabo wareba inyubako nziza zirimo zizamuka, ukareba igicumbi cy'ubutegetsi nka Minisiteri y'Ubutegetsi bw'Igihugu, ukareba ibiro by'abinjira n'abasohoka kugezaho umuntu w'umudipolomate, umuntu w'umushyitsi ajya gushaka icyangombwa akabura n'ubwiherero, urabona ari ibintu bikomeye cyane. Ariko
nanjye niko mbyumva, niba ariko bimeze bigomba kuba ari ibi.
Nagira ngo rero nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, icyo kibazo
biri hehe cyane cyane
hano hafi aha rwose,
hano
hafi na kuri migration iyo hageze rwose. Ikintu kibabaje ni uko icyo kigo ari ikigo dufite mu bigo hano mu Rwanda bikora neza, ariko urebye ahantu bakorera kugeza n'aho umuntu ahagera akabura aho ajya kwiherera. Iyo urebye iyo uzamutse izi nyubako zindi ziri kumwe nayo, usanga ni ukuvuga Minaloc, Minente, usanga ari ibintu biteye isoni bikwiye guhinduka.
Minaloc tubwire
isuku
baba banditseho ngo muze mwabitunganyije.
isuku
nibyo mvuga nyine.
Mwabemerera rero nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika, mbabwire ko ibintu muba muvugira hano si twe mubibwira, muba mubibwira Abanyarwanda cyane cyane benshi, ariko nagira ngo mbabwire ikibazo bafite cyo gukurikirana no kumva neza ibyo ubutumwa muba mwatanze. Ubwo ndavuga mu bijyanye n'ururimi rw'Icyongereza.
Ariko ibi tuvuga barabyumva, ariko
ikibazo
ibyo tuvugana nawe
barabyumva, ariko hari ibindi muvuga mu Cyongereza batumva.
None se hari ababambaza mu Cyongereza n'abasubiza mu Kizi.
Icyo nshaka kuvuga nuko kera hahozeho uburyo iki kiganiro cyahise, hari uburyo bongera bakagisubizaho. Kera hahozeho uburyo bwo kugisemura mu Kinyarwanda,
ubwo buraza gusubiraho.
ubwo rero kuba butakiriho ababishinzwe nagira ngo
ababishinzwe amanota yatakaye, ubwo ntabwo bakora ibyo. Ubwo turaza kubareba uko tubakanguramo nabo cyangwa.
Murakoze nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika.
Ariko Minaloc tubwire.
Murakoze Excellence. Ngo Asumani ibyo yavugaga ni uko inyubako ishaje, naho ibyo ubwiherero burahari n'isuku yaho irakorerwa, ariko kuhavugurura byo no muri ingengo y'imari turimo hari pati zakorwa yo gusubiramo ibijyanye system y'amashanyarazi irakorwa muri ingengo y'imari. Noneho inyubako nini kuyisubiramo ngo kuko ijyane n'igihe tugezemo bizakorwa mu ngengo y'imari itatangira muri kuwa karindwi, ariko isoko ryaratanzwe ibijyanye no kubakora kugira ngo noneho standard z'inzu zongere zigere ku standard zigezweho, kuko nibyo irashaje, ni inzu ishaje, inyubako ishaje.
Ariko hagumye musanasana ibishaje, ababimurira mu mazu yandi mazima ariho ibyo bikajya hasi bakabiha private sector kubakamo ibikenewe sibyo byaruta none se muko mubuzwa n'iki kubitanga nk'ibitekerezo abantu bakorera muricara mukaguma musana ibibagwa hejuru bakongera bagasana bikagwa bakaba ariko mwahisemo gutanga amafaranga lenawe ubucyo ni ikindi kibazo ubwo iyo nta nubwo wenda ari ibyo kuganirwa hano tuzabisuzuma turebe immigration nayo ni nk'icyo kibazo
sense harimo migration harimo minenteri mifotora na minaroke ni inzimwe ishaje nyine
yes ariko ibyo avuga
ibyo ubwiherero bwo burahari abyo ntabwo ari byo burahari
ariko iyo buhari ari bubi kuba ko budahari
buri wera
bashobora kubujyamo kubera uko hameze ni nkaho budahari hari ikindi kibazo uko mwaporeshetinga ibintu ubwo ushobora gusanga uko bimeze mubona nyine bimeze neza uriya tuvuye ko bitameze neza hagomba kuba hari ikibazo ko atakompureyiningi ahandi se ho mwicara mu ma-ofisi cyangwa ikiko yavuze aho ngaho
ikibazo kinini cyari gihari ni icyo cy'uko hashaje ariko kuri maintenance kuri migration hari aho basangira
hashaje gana nuko nyine iyo hashaje ukaba utajyamo ubu ntihahari ahandi hameze hate
nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika
ugeze nk'aho muri foreign affairs bakimara kubaka bimeze bite
birumvikana ariko abari hano bose nabo barumva barahazi baza ko hameze
katenizi ntiziragwa cyangwa
wenda n'ubwiherero twavuze nubwo nabwo budashamaje tujye tubwizanya ukuri ariko nko kuri immigration ku kigo cy'abinjira n'abasohoka usanga ari ibintu bibabaje ku muntu w'umudipolomate aje mu bibazo bye bijyanye n'ibyemezo
biva ku mudipolomate umuntu wari wese
akabona ubwiherero nta bwiherero buhari noneho wareba n'umubyigano uhari aho bakorera ubwaho ntihatuye kandi ni ikigo tuzi ko gikora neza muri iki gihe
ubwo ibibazo byumvikanye
thank you so much
yes hanyuma nawe
murakoze nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika yitwa Celestin Ntawirisha Amaboko nkorera kuri Radio 1
uhingisha amaboko Ntawirisha Amaboko okay
izina rirerire cyane
okay
nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika ikibazo nashakaga kubaza cyane cyane ariko nahera ku miyoborere myiza ndetse n'umutekano bimaze gushinga imizi mu Rwanda munagahera no kuri ibibazo byavuze muri ADPR byakemutse aho nabatungiraga agatoki nyakubahwa perezida wa repubulika amaze igihe hagaragara cyane mu idini ya Islam ari ibinyamakuru bitandukanye ari ku ma radio hose urasanga aricyo kigaruka cyane ndetse bo bamwe na bamwe muganire bakemera ko hari n'ibice bibiri bakavuga ko ari igice kiri ku ruhande rwa mufti uriho na mufti ucyuye igihe ngira ngo hirya no hino uzengurutse ibice bya za Rwamagana za Rusizi no mu bice by'umujyi wa Kigali n'ahandi bamwe bafite impungenge ko bishobora kuba byazagaruka ikibazo gituwe cy'umura ADPR ndagira tubaze ikibazo kuri icyo kibazo ingamba mufite ndetse
ingamba ubwo ni zizaba nk'izo muri ADPR ni ukubafasha kureba uko cyane cyane ubu n'abantu kuba batavuga rumwe batumvikana bagira bati hari ubwo biba ari nta kibazo ndetse muri ya sansi imwe mujya mubishyiramo simwe mushaka za opposition zishwanyaguza ibintu so ubwo hari ubwo biba biri democratic ari ibintu so ariko ubwo iyo bigiye kurenga intera runaka bikajya guhungabanya umutekano w'abantu icyo gihe inzego zibishinzwe bijyamo zikareba ko uwo mupaka utarenzwe niyo hagati baba bagerageza gukemura ibibazo bibareba so ndumva ariko byakemuka yes
murakoze excellence nibyo nkuko mubivuze niko bimeze guhera itariki 7 z'uku kwezi ikibazo tumaze kubona ko kimaze gufata intera hagiyeho komite ihuriweho n'inzego zitandukanye za leta mu cyumweru gitaha izatanga report y'isesengura ry'ikibazo uko giteye n'ingamba zafatwa kugira ngo ikibazo kirangire mu cyumweru gitaha tuzaba dufite raporo yerekana uko ikibazo giteye n'uko cyakemuka
sawa okay murakoze cyane rero